Hello and welcome to the In the Pocket podcast. I'm Logan Martin. That's Xander Cook and that's Max Sturm. All three of us are finally together for an episode on the podcast. And we're going to be talking about the coaching carousel, who got hired, who got fired. We're going to let Max talk about his Buffalo Bills and get some things off his chest. He's had plenty of time to think about what he wants to say. And then we're going to dive right into the upcoming matchups. AFC and NFC championship game determines who goes to the Super Bowl. It's been a fun NFL season for us. So we'll start with the firing of Raheem Morris, which we've already talked about, but they hired Kevin Stefanski as the head coach, made Matt Ryan the president of football operations, and Tommy Rees has been named the offensive coordinator. Boys, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Xander. It's a complete upgrade. It's a complete upgrade from Raheem Morris to Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski, two-time coach of the year in Cleveland, just couldn't get it done. Never really had the roster to do anything with outside of the awesome defense that they had, but they really couldn't nail down those quarterback positions. Now you give him a decent offense that really all they're missing is the quarterback position, and they're gonna have to probably address that. I wonder if they draft anybody or if they're going to try and stick to their guns with Michael Penix or Kirk Cousins, or if they're going to let them both go. I don't really know what the quarterback situation looks like in Atlanta, but the fact that Kevin Stefanski's there now, Falcons fans should be really happy about that.
I disagree. I agree with firing Raheem Morris. He went 8-9 his only 2 years there. And both seasons there were slow starts. Yes, there were quarterback issues, but plain and simple, he was just a very, very mid coach. Not even a mid coach. He was a subpar coach. Great defensive mind. I think he's a hell of a defensive coordinator, and that's the kind of coaching he should be doing. I don't think he's a head coach. This is his second time being a head coach, and it's failed again. So I agree with firing him. I agree with hiring an offensive-minded head coach, just not Kevin Stefanski. Yes, he's a two-time Coach of the Year winner, and that's big for the Atlanta Falcons. But at the same time, you look at what this man has done. He completely derailed the Browns. Granted, the Browns roster hasn't been optimal to say the least, but he threw Baker under the bus. Baker just tweeted saying, "Hey, coach, I can't wait to see you twice a year," and basically kick your ass. He threw Baker like garbage, hasn't texted Baker since the trade. The Deshaun Watson issue is just a Deshaun Watson issue. I can't put any blame on that. But then you look at this season, starting Joe Flacco for a few games and then benching him for Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel sucked. And he just took way too long to start Shedeur Sanders. And as soon as he throws Shedeur in, the Browns start balling offensively. He just takes too long to make crucial decisions. His game plan is pretty weak in my opinion. But yeah, I just don't think it's a good hire.
I mean,
No,
what outside of him being not making the decision to start Shedeur Sanders makes him a bad head coach, though?
Look at the Browns record.
I don't know if it's so much about him being a bad head coach. I think it's more about it's a linear move when you think about head coaches. Maybe a slight step up from Raheem Morris, I think.
Slight, very slight.
I mean,
Just because he's an offensive-minded head coach.
look at what he did with the highest regarded fifth round pick in NFL history in Shedeur Sanders. Look at all the controversy that just surrounded this past season and in the media and stuff like that, and what we heard about in how they kind of had to make an emergency move and go to Shedeur Sanders, which didn't seem like what they wanted to do all year. Think about what they did with Deshaun Watson. I don't know how much of it's on him, how much of it's on the GM, but knowing that a GM and head coach work together to construct a roster most of the time, he probably had some say and he wanted to go out and get Deshaun Watson. That was $230 million in wasted money.
And the dollar figure obviously is an issue, but I'm sorry, you look at Deshaun Watson prior to all the allegations and stuff, that man was a top 5 quarterback. He was available on the market. Why would you not take him?
Not only that, why are you signing this man to a $230 million contract when he takes a year off of the NFL and because he's suspended, and then he tore his Achilles as well, so he's coming off a torn Achilles, and you're just throwing change at him like it's nothing. It's obviously throwing change into a dumpster fire. Like, what else would you have expected for a man who hasn't played football in over a year?
Right, and like I said, the dollar figure doesn't make sense, but that boils down to the GM. They are in charge of that decision. along with the agents. He wasn't the agent asked for a certain amount of money, and it sounds like they just straight up gave him whatever. But you cannot blame Kevin Stefanski for bringing in a guy that was a top 5 quarterback prior to his 1 year exit. I don't think you can
I
blame him for that.
well, I think the what's holding me back on saying this is a good hire, because when you look at all the coaching candidates out there, he's one of the best. We can admit that. He's one of the best candidates out there with the 9 vacancies. But when you look at the QB controversy that has been around the Browns organization for all these years, and Kevin Stefanski wasn't able to turn that around, now you're going into Atlanta, who doesn't have a future first round pick, who
And a
has
QB
a QB
controversy.
controversy right now, and was in the middle of Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins going back and forth and dealing with both injuries. So now you're back in the same situation of you don't have a starting quarterback. So now we're looking at Kevin Stefanski and looking at his track record. The past is telling us when he doesn't have the starting quarterback, a starting quarterback from week 1 to the finish in the season, it doesn't go well. It doesn't go well. So I think it will be interesting to see what he can do in Atlanta. But we'll go to the next
Hold on
one. And I think,
one second. It's not the same situation. You go and you look at these two quarterbacks that they have in Atlanta. Whose quarterback situation is better, Atlanta or Cleveland right now?
I don't know. I don't know. It's pretty even.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Then let me
Yes.
ask.
You, Michael Penix. It's clear that they drafted him way too high, and it's clear that he's had physical problems. He in the last 8 seasons of his professional and collegiate football career, the last 8 years he's been out for 5 with knee injuries, lower body injuries. So how are you? That's over 50% of his seasons, like in the
You
past
think a
8 years. That's crazy.
geriatric Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, who was a slant and handoff merchant in college, and then Shador Sanders, who played in at Colorado, never played a whole ton of real teams. You think that that's a better situation
Yes.
than Kirk Cousins? That's
Yes, because
unbelievable, man.
neither of those guys are starting quarterbacks in the NFL yet. Michael Penix is supposed to be a starting quarterback right now, and he's proven not to be a starting quarterback of quality this past season. And obviously he's been dealing with the injuries. He has not lived up to the hype. He's a really good thrower of the football, but he's inconsistent. He's not accurate. His completion percentage is low. The way he makes his progressions is terrible. He's a lefty, so obviously that's a little bit different. But he's when you're talking about the Atlanta Falcons, you're supposed to have your quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. It was getting to a point last season where Kirk Cousins was playing well enough where you're thinking, well, do we have to have this QB talk again? You don't have to have that in Cleveland because all the 3 guys aren't going to be your starting quarterback in the next 3 years, I don't think.
Well, but that's what. Yeah, listen, with the money situation again, that's something. But Kirk Cousins is also there, so if you don't want to ride with Michael Penix, you can ride with him. Last thing I'll say before we move on here, it's also not the same situation because the offense in Atlanta is much better than Cleveland's.
I don't know. Because Judkins is still a solid running back, and he's only a rookie. He's going to get better. Obviously, season-ending injury towards the end of the season is going to put the start of next season on hold, but I still think he's a solid running back. You have Fannin Jr., who is already playing at an elite level. Some could make the case that he's already better than Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts, yes, this was finally his great season in Atlanta, but it took him 5 years to do it. Harold Fannin Jr. right out of the gate is already playing like a top 5 tight end. The only thing I see wrong with the Cleveland Browns is that their receiving core is kind of shit. Whereas the Falcons, they have Drake London, Darnell Mooney. So
My point exactly.
Max, would you rather know you have to draft a quarterback or have a quarterback that's supposed to be your guy, but you're questioning if you should go out and draft a quarterback? What would you rather do?
I would rather have a guy that I think I can lean on rather than 3 guys that are unproven.
Right now, I'd take Shador Sanders over Michael Penix Jr.
I don't know about that. I think Michael Penix Jr. is the better thrower of the football, but like when it comes down to who's going to be a better quarterback in the next 3 years, I don't know. I really don't know. Because Michael Penix Jr. was supposed to take a step forward. He took a step back this year.
You give Shador that Atlanta offense, and he's doing things that Michael Penix couldn't do.
All right, we got to keep it moving. Los Angeles Chargers hire Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator. What do you guys think about that? I think it's a great
such
move.
an elite hire.
Yep.
Such an elite hire. I'm pissed off about it because as a Steelers fan, I wanted our new head coach to can Arthur Smith to can Terrell Lawson, hire Mike McDaniel as offensive coordinator. Mike McDaniel, he's still young. He's still a bright offensive mind. He completely transitioned that Miami offense. Just the schemes of that offense were elite, plain and simple. When Tua wasn't concussed all the damn time, that Miami offense was elite. I mean, they dropped 70 points in one game. Achan had design plays that he just took off, and then throwing it to Waddle, throwing it to Hill. That whole offense just looked insane. So I think the Chargers hiring him, that is great news for Justin Herbert because he's never had a successful offensive coordinator during his career. Now he finally gets a proven offensive coordinator in Mike McDaniel, and I think that Chargers offense is going to take off. I truly think so.
I also agree. I think it's an awesome hire. I was shocked that Detroit didn't snag him up first. I really thought that that's where he was going to end up. But things happened. He declined the interview with the Browns, which I guess I'm
Rightfully so.
not surprised by, right? But Mike McDaniel, we saw what his offensive brain can do in Miami. It just didn't always work out because Tua Tagovailoa, I'm at the point right now where he's not a bust, but he's not a quarterback that is capable of taking you very far. And I think he got hurt too much to make the offense work. And I also think that Mike McDaniel got a little bit stale with his play calling and the designs where people kind of figured it out on defense. Now he's been fired. He has to reset. He has to rethink his game planning and his scheming. And he's going over to an offense that has the ability to run a similar thing to Miami with a much, much better quarterback. And that is such an awesome thing for Jim Harbaugh to have over there, to have a guy that he can rely on to become a creative play caller over there and get Justin Herbert a little bit more help offensively. I mean, that offensive line has to come back. That is the huge part of this. That offensive line has to come back. They have to play well because Herbert cannot be affording to take these hits as he gets later and later in his career. But if they can get the right protections and they can use that pre-snap motion that Mike McDaniel likes to use, there's going to be a lot of creative play calling that the Chargers could end up being a true contender in the AFC West and in the AFC as a whole.
Yeah, I really like the move. I think him coming to Los Angeles, he's in way better shape in terms of who's on the offense. You have a better quarterback. You have two young running backs, Omari and Hampton, and Vidal, who made a huge step was a huge replacement in the absence of Hampton.
Yeah.
Ladd McConkey, young receiver, who's going to be a stud. We saw what he did in his rookie year. Quentin Johnson, who made a huge step in terms of catching the football this season and his route running and his deep threat ability. And then Keenan Allen, I don't know where he'll be, but I don't know how healthy he'll be and what percentage he'll be. But he's still a slot receiver who can, he has an expanded route tree. He can get open. And I think Rondé Gadsden, the tight end who was a rookie this year out of Syracuse, is going to be on everyone's radar next year. I think what he did in some situations this game really helped the Chargers kind of take a deep breath and be like, we finally got a tight end, because it's been years of Will Dissly. But yeah, and like you said, the tackles need to be healthy, but the offense is set up perfectly. McDaniel did a great job in the pass game early in his career with Miami. A lot of offensive coordinators and head coaches took bits and pieces of his pass plays and kind of copied it, and that's why they kind of caught up to the Miami Dolphins, and that's why Tua Tagovailoa wasn't the NFL leading passer like he was in 2023 at one point. So they kind of caught up in that, but he made strides in the run game and his run plays that he called this season. I thought it would have saved him his job. I mean, he had Devon Achane looking like a top running back in the league in a few of these games. But yeah, I think he's a great offensive coordinator, offensive mind, and I'm happy he took an offensive coordinator job and didn't try to push the issue and try to prove a point that he can still be a head coach.
I was gonna say, what a hell of a step down, right? You're taking a step down, but this is ultimately the next step towards a potential head coaching job in the future. You run a couple years with this offense and you have some success, you're going to have some big spots open with some high quality quarterbacks, and you're going to be in a good spot to take over that head coaching job and more
100%,
experience.
100%. Next job, we'll talk about the hiring of John Harbaugh in New York. The Giants got their general. John Harbaugh, he reported after the meeting with Jackson Dart, he's been fired up. He's ready to run through a brick wall or something like that. I forgot what the quote was, but he's fired up after talking to Jackson Dart, who wouldn't be if he was your quarterback. But looking at that roster, I think that's probably that was my top job on the market in terms of vacancies. Like I would want to go to New York and coach that team. What do you guys think?
I think it's a great hire in my opinion. Um, I wanted to see him in Tennessee, but dude, you look at the Giants. I'd take that job in a heartbeat. I mean, you get Jackson Dart, who's proven that he can be a great quarterback in this league. And look, Harbaugh isn't any other coach. All right, he's proven that he can win time and time again. He's got a winning record. He's got a Super Bowl under his belt, made the AFC Championship a few times. So this hiring for the Giants, I think, is going to just it's like a rocket ship. It's just gonna take off, man, and then just keep soaring. I love this hire. The Giants struggled to find long-term stability. I thought the Brian Dable hire was going to pan out. It did not. But then again, I don't think you could put most of the blame on Dable. That's besides the point. Giants have struggled to find a long-term head coach. I think they finally get one. Harbaugh brings that proven leadership and credibility. His hiring, it was swift and decisive. Now he's already voiced enthusiasm about working with Jackson Dart. Dart's a young talent. It's a signal that he's bought in on this Giants roster, especially with Malik Neighbors there and Cam Scadaboo there. There's a bunch of upsides, man. He just brings that leadership role that the Giants so desperately needed. He has a reputation for discipline, for resilience and preparation. Again, proven track record, and he just brings a sort of optimism that the Giants desperately need. So I think it's a great hire. Not saying that he's going to be a successful playoff coach. I don't know about that yet, but I think it's a great hire, especially for Jackson Dart.
And yeah, that's where I was going with this too. Is look at what John Harbaugh was able to do with Lamar Jackson and the way that he was developed. You got to expect that he's with a guy with that already has potential in Jackson Dart that we've seen already with a not so great situation without him having Malik Neighbors, with his number one running back going down, with an offensive line that's not terrible but not great at the same time. This is a great situation for John Harbaugh to come in, and this is a great situation for Jackson Dart. My issue with John Harbaugh is, as of recent, he cannot hold leads very well. It gets a little bit uncomfortable, and playoff success has not totally been there. So we have to see what happens with that. But I think this is a really good fresh start for Harbaugh, and this is going to be a really good jump start to Jackson Dart's career. Now, Logan, if you don't have anything else, there's breaking news that Brian Flores was just extended by the Vikings.
Wow.
Well,
I wonder if that's why. What?
here's the kicker to it. Here's the kicker to it. He was extended by the Vikings. However, that's he's only back in Minnesota if he doesn't receive a head coaching offer. That's what it is.
Are those the stipulations of the?
Yep.
Okay. Well, still,
So
like,
if he gets a head coaching offer, he is no longer the defensive coordinator of the Vikings and he'll go coach elsewhere. If he doesn't get a head coaching offer, he will stay as the defensive coordinator for the Vikings.
How about Robert Saleh being named the Tennessee Titans head coach? I think that's a great hire because Tennessee has an underrated defense, and I think the reason they weren't top half in the league this year in terms of defensive numbers is because the offense was so bad it didn't help the defense out at all. They saw themselves out in the field a lot more than any other team in the NFL. Bringing in Robert Saleh, we saw what he did with the 49ers defense. Not many people available. Your stars were hurt, and he still made the best of it. And they were a top 10 defense in the league, top 15 defense in the league. So by Robert Saleh coming into Tennessee as a defensive coordinator, the one thing I would have said 2 days ago is you have to go and get the right offensive coordinator. When he was in New York, he hired a first-time offensive coordinator, didn't work out. He went and hired Brian Dable, or the organization went and hired Brian Dable, who's an offensive mind. I think that's a great move for Tennessee, and I think in they're on the right track.
yeah, I agree. I like the pickup for them. Robert Saleh, I always thought got handed an unfair set of cards with the New York Jets. I mean, taking over the Jets as it is already a hard thing to do. The Jets are just simply put not a good team. Um, and then pile on top of that sorry Xander, but Aaron Rodgers kind of had that organization by the nuts. And there wasn't a whole lot that Robert Saleh was in charge of because they put so much into Aaron Rodgers that Woody Johnson just wanted him to make. He basically just gave Rodgers the keys to the organization, and he made the decisions. If there was a guy that he had previously played with that he wanted on the team, that's what was happening. And then he gets fired a portion of the way through the season last year. So he goes to San Francisco and he's the defensive coordinator there. And you saw what they're made of. And even with the injuries, he put up a real damn good fight and can scheme well. So I like it for Tennessee. I think that defense gets a lot better. I'm more worried about how the offense functions next year.
Yeah, I like this hire. I mean, he's a respected defensive mind. He transformed the 49ers defense into one of the best in the league during his time as their defensive coordinator. And the Titans badly need that defensive leadership. They were amongst the worst in the league for several years now. So now they get a defensive-minded head coach. I'm expecting a lot more out of their defense. He also inherits meaningful pieces. He has Cam Ward as his quarterback. He has significant cap space, and he has high draft picks. I think they're picking fourth in this year's draft. So he has real tools to build with. The concerns that I have, his past head coaching results weren't great. His Jets tenure ended early in 2024. He had a losing head coaching record. So obviously fans are cautious about that history. But like Max mentioned, he didn't have a great roster to build with. And I can't put most of the blame on Saleh. That roster was just atrocious. Management was atrocious. Ownership is the worst. So can't really put most of the blame there, but he does have that losing history. Offensive leadership will be decisive. Saleh's success, especially with a young quarterback like Ward, it's going to hinge on his offensive coordinator hire. And that's what bringing in Brian Dable means. Like Brian Dable, as the Bills offensive coordinator, the Bills were one of the best offenses in the league. And with the Giants, not so much. But again, that Giants offense was just freaking horrible, man. But he still managed to take that team to the playoffs. And not only that, got a playoff win with them. So I do like that Dable hire too. And I think Cam Ward loves that Dable hire. So I think that this could be a good thing for Tennessee.
Now we're going to get to what everyone's been waiting for and what Max has been waiting for. Okay, and I'm going to set it up for you. I'm going to do a little bit of talking before I hand the mic over to you and let you cook, okay?
Gotcha.
So I'm going to just give my little 2 cents before. So, obviously watched the Bills versus Broncos game. That I think the game flipped when Josh Allen threw the ball away right before halftime and made it a 2-possession game instead of one going into it. There's so much unfolding around this Buffalo situation right now, from the head coaching firing of Sean McDermott to who the next head coach is going to be, to the owner coming out and saying that it was McDermott's pick to go out and get Keon Coleman. There's a lot going on in Buffalo right now. And not even to mention, I just read a report that Sean McDermott was complaining in team meetings, coaches meetings about the roster. So a lot boiling over right now in Buffalo. But I will say this: 98-50 in 9 seasons. 8 out of the 9 seasons he was there and made the playoffs, AFC Championship twice. You know, we can have the same conversation about him as other coaches like John Harbaugh, like past success. It's crazy they let him go, but this is a little different than John Harbaugh because they have been winning games. They've been consistently a 10-win team in 7 straight seasons, to make it more specific. The longest streak in the NFL. One of 6 teams in the Super Bowl era to do so. The Bills are the only team of those 6 teams not to reach multiple Super Bowls. So could the story of this be that it's Josh Allen? You know, he's 30 years old now, and it's time to win a Super Bowl. Now Brandon Beane's the president of football operations, okay, and him and Josh Allen have a closer relationship. I think they would be stupid not to make Joe Brady the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills, because we watched what Coach McDonald did leaving the Ravens. decided to keep Harbaugh. McDonald goes to the Seahawks, and now look at what Seattle's doing. And I've been really impressed with the play calling by Joe Brady. Watching these past 2 games in the playoffs, exceptional play calling. You could put the blame on last game partly on Josh Allen, yes, but looking at what he had to cook with, his play calling was phenomenal. I could go back and point out so many plays where I'm just like, wow, what a play call. Like maybe the bubble screen in the end zone on 3rd and 8 where Josh Allen threw a short and it hit the turf. Like what a ballsy move to call a screen pass to your slot receiver on 3rd and 8 in the end zone with the game on the line. But it worked out. If he threw it, he would have scored. I just think Joe Brady needs to be the next head coach of the Buffalo Bills, because looking at all these other head coaching moves, I don't know who they could pick that would be better than Coach McDermott. And I know, Max, you're fuming right now. You really want to speak, so I'll end it here. Again, make Joe Brady the next head coach. If it doesn't work out this next season, hopefully next year there are more head coaching availability. But I think Joe Brady is the next decision, and I wonder how much of this has to do with the Patriots winning the AFC East.
Yeah, so let me just get things rolling by saying the 2 playoff games, because I was out. So a little recap. Bills beat the Jaguars. Very good win. Very well coached by McDermott as well. And Logan is obviously witness to that as he watched the game, but also through the tape. Very well coached game on the defensive side of the ball by Sean McDermott. The schemes he was bringing up, the disguising, it's what Sean McDermott's known for, and he did an excellent job of limiting a team who really was fantastic all throughout the second half of that season offensively. Trevor Lawrence was really starting to light it up, and we limited him the best that we could and forced a game-losing interception out of him. Go on to Denver. It's more of the same from McDermott. It was another really, really good coaching performance defensively. Yes, you could argue that maybe they probably shouldn't have played prevent defense at the end of the or towards the end of the game, but they were putting on the pressure still. They were still sending guys, and that's why they were playing their backs so far back. Here's where I sit with it. The losses, I'm used to them at this point. It's still heartbreaking. If you wanted to fire Sean McDermott after the 13-second game or after any of the playoff losses to the Chiefs, which were a direct result of poor time management or poor defensive decision making, then I would have been fine with it. The problem lies this year. McDermott coached a fantastic year. This is the one year. Obviously, at the beginning, like in that little slump they had, I had some questions about it. I think I was getting a little bit heated and saying, oh, we're fire him. But the second half of this year was fantastic coaching. This was the best playoff coaching that McDermott ever had with this Buffalo Bills team. And 2 days after a loss that ends in controversy, not necessarily the team shooting themselves in the foot. Yes, Josh Allen had a bad game. It wasn't Josh Allen's game, but they were in a spot to win it, and I wholeheartedly believe that was a catch made by Brandon Cooks, and it ends in controversy. After all that, after a great coaching performance, you fire the man, and not only do you fire the man, but you promote the GM, who is, I think, more responsible because he has not brought in the personnel to make this a Super Bowl winning team. You look at the guys that he's drafted over the last few years. Obviously, he drafted Josh Allen. Awesome. 2019, he drafts Dawson Knox, one-time Pro Bowler. Then he drafts James Cook in 2022, who is a two-time Pro Bowler now, and he's been awesome. Where else are your Pro Bowlers? He hasn't selected one. He has not selected another Pro Bowler, whether it's first round, second, all the way up to the 7th. He hasn't. Brandon Beane is not a draft mastermind. He thinks he is, and the media wants us to say that he is because we've had such a good team, but that's a result of Josh Allen being Josh Allen and being able to make do with what they have. Now,
do you believe what the owner said? Do you think it was McDermott's decision to draft Keon Coleman? Do you think it doesn't matter?
I'm getting there. It really doesn't matter. But so yeah, drafting issues, of course. And then you look at this year. You get to the trade deadline. It is very obvious that the Bills need a wide receiver, that you've got to go out and get somebody, whether it was Chris Olave, whether it was Rashid Shaheed, whether it was Jalen Waddle, who is, by the way, on a division rival at the time and still is as of right now, was up for sale for one 2026 first round draft pick. Buffalo, Brandon Beane offers a 2027 first round draft pick. Dolphins decline. They say, no, we want this year's. Brandon Beane says no? Why do you say no to that? There's so much wrong with that offensive receiving core. When Khalil Shakir, your slot receiver, is your best receiver, you have a problem.
I don't think he should have taken that trade, though. I disagree with you. I think giving up a first-round pick in that is too much, and hear me out. He should have. You watch Rashid Shaheed go for a 6th-round and a 4th-round pick. You watch Jacoby Myers go for a 5th-round pick.
Jalen Waddle's better than both of them.
Yeah, but I would rather spend a 5th-round pick on Jacoby Myers, and that's automatically just makes your wide receiver run way much better.
That's the point, is he did nothing.
Nothing. He could have. You could have spent a 5th-round pick on someone like that.
Exactly.
A 5th-round pick.
Whether you agree with the Waddle thing or not, he needed to make a move, and he did not make a move. And there's conversations later about with Sean McDermott, Terry Pagula, and Brandon Beane in a room having a meeting about the state of the team. And Sean McDermott voices the truth that this team is not built to win a Super Bowl because they don't have the pieces around Josh to do it. And for whatever reason, Pagula and Brandon Beane must have taken that personally and as a jab to the way they've done their job. And so they were unhappy with the assessment of it. And it's
I agree. Yeah,
it's not a wrong assessment.
No, it's not.
It's a perfectly honest assessment of the team. You can rely on Josh Allen to get you to the divisional round every year because he's been so good in the wild card. You can rely on him to maybe get you to the AFC Championship if you don't run into the Chiefs beforehand. But you've got to be able to have a team that can make it to the Super Bowl, and no team that doesn't have a 1,000-yard wide receiver, a solid running back, and a good set of tight ends along with an offensive line is going to make it to the Super Bowl. Nobody is.
They don't even got a wide receiver too.
They don't. When you and so let's move on to part 3 of this, because this is the craziest part to me. So Terry Pagula and Brandon Beane today decide to have a press conference to kind of address everything that's going on, because like myself, others were questioning it. Now, when it was first announced that Sean McDermott was fired, I really didn't know what to think, because I think I was just mostly in shock. But as I reevaluated and reflected on it, I came to understand that the wrong person was fired here. And so they sit down today, and Terry Pagula starts by stating the reason that Sean McDermott was fired was due to the result in Denver, which makes zero sense to me. It's absolute bullshit. It is a scapegoat for not having the pieces to do it. And I'm not, at times I'm a ref versus whoever guy, right? But the Broncos did beat the Bills, but the game really ended on a controversy. That's what everyone's going to talk about. It ended on a controversy. It didn't end on Sean McDermott making poor coaching decisions and time management decisions as he had in the past. So it wasn't his fault this year. So saying that the reason you fired him is because of the result in Denver is just fucking blasphemy. And then he follows it up by saying that he never told any of the players that this was going to happen. And if you leave out the cornerbacks on the decision or whatever, like, I understand you're not going to everybody or sending a group text out to the players and say, sorry, Sean McDermott's going to be fired, just want to prepare you. But you don't go to your MVP quarterback, who is the sole reason your team hasn't been a 3-win team for the last 7 years. And you don't tell him. You don't tell him what you're going to do. Josh Allen has such a close relationship with Sean McDermott. I don't understand why you're treating a guy who's an MVP, a guy who is your team, this way, and leaving him out totally dry, without any influence, without any decision, without even just telling him, hey, we are going to do this. It's terrible. It's terrible. The culture left when Sean McDermott was fired. We're seeing it now. The way that it's ran without him there is just awful. And then they make matters worse by just making Buffalo look bad as an organization. The whole Keon Coleman situation. You have a guy who's actively on your team who you drafted 2 years ago with your number one pick in that particular draft, and you're actively bashing him and saying, "Yeah, this was Sean McDermott's decision, not ours." Which how
It
are
could
you
be made
supposed
up.
how, how are you supposed to, as a player, have confidence going forward if your owner and your GM, who are, despite what they say, responsible for picking you, how do you move forward?
The whole locker room's probably deflated after
It
that.
is. Like I said, the culture was McDermott. The culture was McDermott, and that is out the window now. And so, what this boils down to me is, how is the locker room going to handle it? How is Josh Allen going to handle it?
Not
So,
good. I
I
don't.
think I think
I want to say one more thing. 2022 first round pick Kyrie Elam. You know how much you despise Kyrie Elam. He was drafted over Tyler Smith, Devin Lloyd, Linderbaum, Christian Watson, Brees Hall, Jalen Petrie, Ken Walker III, Wandell Robinson, George Pickens, Alec Pierce, Trey McBride, Nick Benito, and even before James Cook. So I agree with everything you said. The draft picks were horrible. He never made any bold moves in free agency, which backfired for the team. I do 100% agree with you, and you made a solid point. Sean McDermott, this was his best coaching job ever. And this is probably one of the worst rosters he's had with a team that's expected to do the most. You know, like it. So I agree with everything you said there, man. I think you really got it off your chest in a great
I
way.
I just think, let's look forward now, because you mentioned who you think should be hired in this position. Um, with Dayball gone and some other of the top candidates gone, it should be Joe Brady. It
Yeah.
really should be Joe Brady. I think that's also not only just a move that's like, okay, you've got a guy who's proven he can run a very solid offense and can be creative at times, but I think it's a locker room decision too. These guys are upset that McDermott got fired. You look at the posts that each of these players made, it is very clear they were not happy with the decision. You bring Joe Brady back in as the head coach, you appease some of that. You keep people happy. You keep
Yeah.
Josh Allen happy for sure, which is priority number one. Because if you go out and you hire somebody who isn't familiar with the organization, doesn't have a relationship with Josh Allen, and he doesn't like him, or things go south, even further south than they are right now, then you have a superstar quarterback that doesn't want to play for you anymore. A guy who has said he's devoting his life to bringing a Super Bowl to Western New York. And that
Max, oh, sorry. Do you think McDermott? Because to me, it sounds like he knew he was going to get fired, and he knew how bullshit it was that he was about to get fired.
I
Because
think
going into the meeting, like you said, it sounded like he emptied the clip, put it out there, really wanted to tell the truth. Seemed like it backfired. And then even after the Broncos game, when he was talking about the controversy with the call, it also sounded like that was his last chance of being like, the rest kind of fucked us. We deserve to win that game.
I think he knew, and I think it was one of those situations where you, as the coach, you know what your outcome is if you
Right.
lose that game,
But
but
it's
you don't
unfair.
you don't want to tell your players, right? You
Yeah.
want to go in
That's a
and
tough feeling.
and I feel so bad for the man, because, like you guys have heard me say it. I've said it in a few years past that McDermott, I think we need to move on from him, because we don't win a Super Bowl with him.
Which I
But
disagree, but yeah.
what I've seen from him this year really revitalized my love for him. And the other thing is just, he's such a good guy in the locker room too.
Yeah.
Everyone loves him. Everyone speaks so highly of the man, both from a football and a personal perspective. And the culture in Buffalo has been the team's identity. We
Yeah.
remember, we talked to Andy. We talked to Andy
Yep.
Isabella, and he said the exact same thing.
About McDermott, yep.
Yes,
The culture.
it doesn't
Everything.
matter. It doesn't matter who you talk to, past and current players. They all say the same thing. Players that never even played for him say the same thing. That tells you how highly he's regarded. And when you just look at this, like, obviously Seattle's offensive coordinator could be a good candidate too if he decides to go and get a head coaching job. But there is truly no other head coach on the market right now who is as good as Sean McDermott is. And I'll cut it there.
Um, My thoughts about this. I think the firing needed to happen. This is the NFL. This isn't, oh, we're going to keep you because you win regular season games. Oh, we're going to keep you because you win some playoff games. That's not the goal. The goal isn't to win 13 regular season games. The goal isn't to win a playoff game or two. The goal is to win a Super Bowl. You have an MVP caliber quarterback, and you have failed to reach the Super Bowl during his tenure, despite excellent regular season track record from McDermott, 98 and 50 over 9 seasons. How much of that can we credit Josh Allen? I guarantee you a majority of that we're going to credit Josh Allen. Buffalo has consistently fallen short in the playoffs, and they have never reached a Super Bowl. Pegula, he cited recent postseason failures, being the Denver game. You can argue it's a controversial call. I don't think so. To me, that was an interception. Before Cook's knee went down, you can see the defender's arm in there ripping through the ball. I thought that was a pick. So I know some fans don't think so, but at the end of the day, he's not. You, the reason he said that Denver game is because, look, Buffalo lost the game. They didn't even make it to the AFC Championship. He fired McDermott because they lost the game. The argument here is that great teams need coaches who can get them over the hump, and McDermott failed to do that with Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills. This signals a win now mentality for Josh Allen's prime years. He's one of the best quarterbacks in football, and he's now entering the later stage in his career. He's already 30 years old, hasn't even been to a Super Bowl. If a coach repeatedly fails in the postseason with a generational quarterback, a fresh voice might unlock a different dynamic and boost the team's Super Bowl chances. And I think the best way to do that is to promote Joe Brady as your head coach. The organization as a whole, they want a different identity. McDermott, widely respected, defensive-minded leader. He can build a culture, but his game management is terrible. He can't adjust in those big moments. It's been lacking throughout his career. So changing coaches opens the door for an offensive-minded leader, Joe Brady, who might be better to maximize Josh Allen and the team's overall talent. Resetting expectations around structure. By firing McDermott, and now Brandon Beane is no longer the GM, he's the president of football operations. This is a clear statement about accountability and strategic direction. I think new leadership can absolutely reshape the staff and roster in a way that aligns with a Lombardi trophy in Buffalo. To me, this firing makes sense. You could not get to a Super Bowl under Josh Allen. A change needed to happen. We
Look at
saw
the
what John.
roster.
We hold on. We saw even okay. Great season this year. Great coach season this year. He still had Stephon Diggs in the league's one of the league's best offenses in his prior years. He still had a pretty good defense in his prior years with Tre'Davious White, Epinesa, and all of those guys. And he still couldn't make it to the Super Bowl, man. So yes, he has one good year and he gets fired. Okay. Oh, he had a good year. Why are you firing him? Look what he's done in the past. He's done nothing. He's a great regular season head coach, not a good playoff coach, and that's been proven time and time and time and time again. Look back to the first year with Buffalo. They lost to the Texans in overtime. What the hell was that defensive play on a long third down or a fourth down that Deshaun Watson runs to the right side and it's just completely wide open, sets them up at 25, 30 yards downfield game-winning field goal. You get destroyed by the Chiefs in the AFC Championship in 2020. You lose to the Chiefs. There's 13 seconds on the clock. You play prevent defense because there's 13 seconds. No, you're playing Patrick Mahomes. Why the fuck are you playing prevent defense?
And
terrible.
They had a lesser roster in each of those years. So that has to come back to the roster issues of we need to get superstars to take that next leap and, get an edge on these guys.
That to me, those were rosters that had Super Bowl potential, and McDermott could not capitalize on it.
But
is it Super Bowl potential roster, or is it Super Bowl potential because it's Josh Allen at quarterback?
It's a Super Bowl potential roster. You look at the Bills' regular season in those prior years. I'm not talking this year. In those prior years, those were
it's Josh Allen putting the team on his back, man. He's the best player in the NFL.
They had one of the best defenses in 2019, 2020, dude. They still had a great defense, and Josh Allen was starting to develop that hype that he has now. So I agree with firing McDermott. There's no playoff success under his resume. It's a lot like John Harbaugh in recent years with Lamar. A change needed to happen. You don't have that playoff success. You've never been to a Super Bowl with Lamar. Change had to happen. They fire John Harbaugh. Same thing with Mike Tomlin. There's just no playoff success with Mike Tomlin. Yes, he stepped down, but a change was needed. There's no playoff win in 10 years. Are you kidding me?
It's a completely
Mind you,
different story, though. It's a
I
completely
don't
different
think it is.
story.
I don't think it is. You can get to the
Really?
playoffs and you still failed to win a playoff game. Not only that, we can go back to Tomlin in 2011, league's #1 defense. He still had a pretty good offense with Big Ben, with Mike Wallace, with Antonio Brown,
Mike Tomlin's had
with
better
Jericho
defenses
Cotchery.
and never had a Josh Allen, though.
He had a Big Ben, a Hall of Famer. He
That's
had the
nothing.
killer bees.
I'd take
Antonio
Josh Allen
Brown,
10 times
Le'Veon
out
Bell,
of
the
10
league's
over
best
Big Ben.
offensive line. Big Ben is a Hall of Famer. Put some respect on his name for one. Mike Tomlin had an all-star offense, and yes, you can argue subpar defense, but never made it
both
to a
great
Super
head
Bowl with the
coaches. I
killer
don't know.
bees. Great regular season coaches, but this is the NFL. In order to be considered an elite head coach, you need to go or win a Super Bowl.
They're getting greedy. They don't want to reset, right? The Bills don't want to reset and go into rebuild mode with Josh Allen at quarterback. They'll never
This
do
isn't
that with
rebuild
Josh
mode.
Allen.
This is not rebuild mode.
Then why do you fire the head coach and hire?
There's no playoff success. No
Go
playoff
get someone
success.
back. Go get some players.
Joe Brady. Promote Joe
find-
Brady.
Go
I
spend
think
money.
they're
Give me a
in
second.
towards a
Give me a
Joe
second.
Brady hire.
Trade.
The issue, I think, with Brandon Beane in the roster construction is over the last several years, instead of going out and using that cap space to get new guys, to get guys who are superstar players or even close to it, they like to build from within. And so re-signing guys like Terrell Bernard, Matt Milano, Taylor Rapp, your tight ends Dawson Knox, among others, especially on the defensive side, Greg Rousseau, or going out and getting older guys that used to be a part of the Carolina regime with Shaq Thompson and again, among others. That's been a problem, is we're not improving the roster. We're either keeping it the same with guys who have been good at times or with guys that have been friends of the Carolina regime. And the fact that the Bills have been as successful as they are with the roster that they've had, that has at the very most 3 Pro Bowlers on it per year, is incredibly impressive and speaks a lot about Sean McDermott.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the roster in the future, because if this is the move they make, does that mean they're going to stop doing the in-house signing and they're going to finally go out and make free agents, and that maybe is proven that Sean McDermott had something to do with it? Or are they going to keep doing the same bullshit, not spend money, keep hiring or keep extending in-house players that, they're better players out in free agency? What are we going to see? Is there going to be any change in terms of how they handle the roster? Because there needs to be change. That is the needed change, not a head coaching change. So it'll be interesting to see what the Bills do. And that'll be all we got for the In the Pocket podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in. We're gonna chop this up. This is the In the Pocket podcast. I'm Logan Martin. It's Max Sturm. That's Santa Cook. Appreciate you boys tuning in. Have a great night. Peace.